Hello, welcome to the video. My name is Chels and I'm going to be sharing with you the 10 habits that I've used to help me lose 40 pounds and keep them off for the past 5 years. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, you may see some things that are on repeat, and this is your sign to actually start implementing them. I would love to hear in the comments which of these 10 things are you already doing and which are you going to start implementing. Before we crack on to that, I want to preface this by saying that all weight loss works by getting into a calorie deficit. And so these things that I'm going to share with you are no different. They help you by reducing the overall calories that you eat or increasing the calories that you burn slightly, helping to increase your consistency so that you're not dieting one week and eating 1,500 calories and then going for a huge binge the next week, eating 5,000 calories in a day, so that you can actually, over time, get to whatever goal you have and build a lifestyle where you're no longer relying on motivation. Any kind of habit is really just the sum of millions and millions of tiny actions that your brain is now putting onto autopilot. And that's where we want to get to, because it means that you don't need willpower anymore. And in order to create a habit, things have got to be easy, they've got to be satisfying, they've got to be obvious, they've got to be attractive, according to James Clear, who is the guru on how to create habits. And I highly recommend his book, Atomic Habits, if you haven't read it. And I've numbered these in terms of what is going to be most impactful for your weight loss journey, reducing those overall calories. So just pick and choose the ones that make most sense to start implementing first, and then layer them in as you go. The first thing is to stop cooking with oil. And the reason for this is that oil is just so calorie dense that you can add hundreds, if not thousands of calories a week when you use it in your cooking or you eat it within foods, like especially processed foods, on a regular basis. And the reason it is so high in calories, even for a small amount, is you start with something like olives or nuts and seeds. You take out the water, which means that you've now got a smaller package of food for the same amount of calories, because water doesn't have calories, and then you take out the fiber and you've got the same amount of calories as what you started with, but now it's even in a smaller package. So I think about this in terms of the difference between a box of coins and a box of $100 notes. Even though the volume and the look of it can be exactly the same, you've got so much more value when you've got a $100 note versus a couple of coins. And so that's what oil is to basically every other food. It's extremely condensed calories, which means that if you are cooking with oil, and let's say you're sauteing some vegetables, you can have more calories from just the oil you're sauteing in than the veggies that you're eating themselves. So I'm not saying don't eat fat sources, definitely eat your avocado, your nuts, your seeds, and your tofu and your edamame and all those other things that have fat in them, but just don't get that from oil. So I like to water saute. I have a kettle right by my stove, and I didn't realize this until I went to the States a couple of years ago, but most Americans don't have kettles in their home. So if you don't do this, you can get some kind of cute oil dispenser, have that by your stove, water saute. I like to use baking paper when I'm roasting veggies, or I just will dry roast things or dry saute things without adding any water at all. A lot of the time when you're cooking vegetables, you don't need to add any water because they have water in them. So if you put that lid on top, then it's not going to stick because there's enough moisture trapped inside. Number 2 is to buy vegetables that you really enjoy and that you can have as a side, or your core non-starchy vegetables on a daily basis. What I mean by this is to have something like broccoli or snap peas or baby carrots that you can have with pretty much every meal, and that you don't need to think about how you're going to prepare it. The pitfall that I see people making is that they will buy all the vegetables that they see in the shop: eggplant, leek, asparagus, lots of amazing things, but then they don't really know how to prepare it, or it takes a lot of time and effort to figure out what recipes that's going to go in, so the food ends up rotting in the fridge. If you find a core veggie that you really enjoy and that you can add to any meal, you're going to remove a lot of decision fatigue, and you're going to be able to get your reps in order to do all those little action steps that mean that it's now autopilot. So for me, that's broccoli. I have a broccoli steamer, so I can cook up broccoli and have that as a side to pretty much every meal. Broccoli goes with pretty much everything. When we were in America traveling around, we did baby carrots, snap peas, and cherry tomatoes because I could prep them up in the morning, just put them all into a container, and then we could snack on them throughout the day. I like to think of my veggies in two ways. The first one is the veggies that I cook with. If I'm making a recipe and I'm using onion or leek or celery, then that's different to my core side or my core snacky veg that is going to just be my default. Because the more you can just not think about this, the more consistent you're going to get. Because the goal is to have a veg that you know that you like, that you can add to your lifestyle, that is not going to require any extra thinking. Habit number 3 is to cook or create recipes where you're always adding a ton of veggies. And this is different in my mind to having a core side or a core veggie that you're going to snack on, because this is more about changing the way that you prepare the food that you throw together to make a recipe or to make a meal. And so this means every time that you look at a recipe, or you try something new, or you make a creamy pasta, or you make a risotto, you're very intentional to add half non-starchy vegetables to that, which is going to lower the calories down without you feeling any extra hunger, because you can eat a lot of bulk that way. This was extremely helpful for me because I live in a place where even though broccoli is my core veggie, I can't get it year round. So having a system where I will just always add a ton of veggies, even if I'm craving something higher in calories, like a creamy pasta, which I do eat regularly, then I can still make that great for weight loss because I'm offsetting the higher calorie elements by adding in bulky lower calorie elements. And so what this means is that even on my worst days, when I go get a pad thai takeout like I did literally last week, I will add tons of veggies to that because I'm now so used to eating a lot of veggies that it's more enjoyable for me to do that than it is to not. And so I steamed up some broccoli, I mixed it in with my pad thai, and I was able to save about a quarter or maybe even a half of that, not need to eat it, and actually be able to eat more food because my broccoli was in there. Let me be really candid for a second. I sometimes see people struggle online who know all the frameworks about how to lose weight, and they understand the principles, and they'll kind of struggle with this all-in or all-out behavior where they'll be really, really diligent and follow all these principles, and then they'll go to eating a lot of processed food. This habit, I believe, is the safety net for that, because if you're in a habit of eating a ton of veggies with every single meal, I mean, I don't eat veggies with breakfast, I mean, you can if you want, but you get what I'm saying, then you're never going to be either dieting or not. You're always going to be on some kind of trajectory that is building the habits that get you to where you want to be. Number 4 is to prep some kind of coarse starch, potato, rice, beans, quinoa, anything that is going to be the bulk of the calories for your meal, that's a whole food, and get into some kind of prep system with that. What I really like to do is a rolling prep. So I will cook up potatoes, and then when I see myself getting low on them, I'm just going to cook up more. I don't have to spend hours each week meal prepping because I just do it while I'm already cooking dinner and I notice that my fridge is getting low. All we're trying to do here is make this as easy as possible. So choose something that is simple for you to prep and that doesn't take longer than 5 minutes of actual effort. If you have the opportunity to buy frozen rice or buy packet quinoa or buy pre-scrubbed potatoes, then do that, because you're going to remove the barriers that may seem small but really do contribute to you not actually following through and doing it. Remember, we're trying to make this easy and obvious and satisfying. The more you can eliminate the need for willpower, the more likely you will build a habit. Number 5 is to create 3 core meals that you really enjoy, that take 5 minutes or less, that you can eat consistently. I'm talking breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you want some inspiration, I have a whole video on overnight oats, so you can watch that. But really anything that is going to be easy, where you've got your starch ready, you've got your veggies ready to go, is going to be the easiest thing that you can do, where you don't have to keep thinking about this. Quite often people ask me for a recipe book or to share more recipes, and I've literally given every single recipe that I make consistently. I don't have a lot. I have probably 5 to 10 things that I make consistently, and I just repeat those. Let me just ask you this, like let's be really candid for a second, or honest about whether more recipes actually help us to get results. I'm sure you've downloaded so many ebooks, you've got so many recipes, I'm sure your Pinterest is full of delicious things and you follow vegan influencers who make amazing meals, it's just too much. There's too much thought process involved. It's so much effort when you look at a spice list or an ingredient list that is 10 elements or ingredients long, and we never end up consistently doing those because it's just too difficult. The other day I met with a friend and I was talking to her about the Stanley, because for New Zealand no one really has these, even though it's a bit of a thing in the States. And I said to her, the main reason that I wanted to buy this was because I find that if I have to open the bottle to take a drink, I will not drink water. But this is really easy. The funny thing was that she could relate to that completely. And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that are like, yeah, duh, like if I have to open the lid, then I won't drink as much as if I can just grab a bottle and drink from a straw. Do you think about how much effort is actually required to open a bottle and how little it takes for that to affect your behavior massively? Now you apply that to having to read a recipe, figure out what you're going to make, figure out whether you've got all the ingredients, and then actually cook that. It might seem like it's not a barrier, but it really is. So make things simple, get used to cooking 3 meals, and then repeat those. Number 6 is to stop drinking your calories. If you're going to drink smoothies, fine, but juice, fizzy drink, alcohol, anything, I don't know what else you'd be drinking that has calories, but anything that you're drinking that is not water can add so many calories in a week. Not only that, it's not going to be filling, so it's not going to contribute to you eating less calories. Whereas if you eat more calories from broccoli and potato, you will eat less calories from other things. When I first started losing weight, I just had a blanket principle for myself that I wouldn't drink juice or fizzy drinks, and it really helped me because I didn't have to make that decision when I would go out or when I was offered something, because I just knew I wasn't going to have it. And I do drink coffee and tea, so this is somewhat nuanced, but the more that you can get your calories from whole foods, the more likely you'll get into a calorie deficit. And this is a really simple one to make. The cool thing is that now there's so many amazing soda waters and flavored fizzy waters, so you can get the kick without the calories. And so most of what I drink is soda water with a bit of lemon or lime, and I barely drink boring water. I mean, I do. There's water in here. But it means I can make it fun without adding tons of calories. A little word about alcohol. As we know, has a ton of calories, and it does tend to remove inhibitions as well. Normally when people drink, they tend to eat more calories because that just feels like it's okay in the moment. So I would describe myself as a non-drinker, but very occasionally, if I'm outside of my home and in a social setting, I will have a few drinks and I'm fine with that. But it's very contextual to it being an unusual thing for me to do rather than something that I'm doing every single night. And I like to keep that separation because it means that my habit is to drink water, and really water only. Number 7 is going to trigger some people, and that is to use the scales. Hop on the scales and use it as data. Use it to learn your body's own cycles. Use it to see if you're making long-term progress rather than just day to day that your weight is going up or down, because there is so much data to support that. As an accountability tool, daily weighing is phenomenal. A lot of people struggle with the scale weight because they see that number as meaningful on a day-to-day basis when it's only meaningful over the long term. What you're wanting to look for is a downward trend. It's kind of like your bank account. Some days you're going to have more expensive purchases, like if your car needs servicing, and we don't generally freak out about those and think that, well, there's no point in even trying to save money because look at this big purchase I had, now I'm going to spend everything I have in my bank account. I mean, maybe some people do, but hopefully we're not doing that with our finances. But then people will do that with the scales, where it really doesn't matter day to day. There's all these different things like water and salt and hormones, how much food you've eaten, that are going to contribute to that number that you see. But over time, like I'm talking weeks and months, when you see that zigzaggy downward trend, you can start to look at that and say, hey, like I know that I'm actually losing fat. It is a tool in the long term. The data on daily weighing is overall positive, and what we like to do with our clients inside of Lean with Plants is teach them to see this as helpful and useful information about themselves, to be non-emotionally attached to that number, because it's not a value metric, it's literally just a number. The cool thing is, when you weigh yourself daily, you start to learn your own body's fluctuations, and that becomes useful. And the reason I don't like monthly or weekly weighing is that if you're weighing weekly and you go an entire week and you've been doing everything right, and then you hop on the scales, if that number's not lower than what you want it to be, then you're going to be demoralized. Whereas you may have just hit one random high in an overall downward trend that you would never know about if you weren't tracking daily. The same kind of thing can happen monthly, but more importantly for that longer timeline is if you do need to make changes to your diet, if you're not actually in a calorie deficit, if you're not actually eating in a way that is getting you into that weight loss zone, even that if you think you are, there's a bit more snacks and chips and chocolate and alcohol slipping in there, then it's just not long enough to actually make any changes. So daily weighing with a view of seeing that as long-term data and taking an average is where it's at. And all you need to do to find your average weight loss is take those 7 days or however the cadences that you're looking at, and then add them together and then divide them by that number. So if it's 7, add up those 7 days and then divide by 7. That's going to give you your average weight loss over a week. Number 8 is to find a pre-made condiment, because we're all about making things easy and light and fun and enjoyable, and you don't need to be slaving away making your own hummus or your own cashew cream. If you're in New Zealand, I highly recommend the smoked Turkish hummus. This is by far the best hummus I've ever tasted. And if you're in the States, then I can really recommend the Trader Joe's cauliflower buffalo dip, or maybe just buffalo dip. It's amazing, and it's only about 40 calories per serve, which is pretty on point for weight loss. And if you're in the rest of the world, I have no idea, you're on your own, but I'm sure someone in the comments knows, so please put your helpful information down there so that we can help each other out. Let me backtrack for 1 second. Think about how helpful this would be if you had your core veggies, you had some core starches, and you had a core condiment. How easily could you throw together a meal that you actually enjoyed? When I was in LA recently, hanging out with a good friend of mine who has lost over 75 pounds, nearly 80 pounds eating this way, she served me up a meal that was literally a microwave potato, some microwave broccoli, some lentils that she gets from Trader Joe's that are all ready to go, and some of that vegan cauliflower buffalo dip. And it was one of the most delicious meals that I had. I was super hungry, but I really enjoyed it, and it was simple. It took 5 minutes. It's one of her core meals, and it's one of the reasons she's lost so much weight. Number 9, we're nearly done, is to have a habits-based exercise goal. Exercise has not been shown to help with weight loss, typically because even though we burn more calories through exercise, we offset that by moving less throughout the day, fidgeting less, and sitting more, and then we end up eating a little bit more because we are hungrier. But one of the best things that you can do for your mental health, your heart health, and really your habits is to exercise. Like, it's still phenomenally powerful. So if you shift your focus from that being about weight loss and instead just see that as a necessary part of your health journey, then it changes the game. So a habit-based system would be, I want to do 5,000 steps a day, or I want to run 3 times a week, I want to go to the gym 3 times a week, maybe I want to do 50 kilometers in a month in terms of running. You're setting something up for you to create cadence with your exercise rather than having that about losing weight. And the cool thing about this is you're going to feel better about yourself because you're staying consistent with something. Your overall health and mood is going to improve, and that's only going to make it easier to stick to your diet. So win, 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 win. And number 10 is more of a mindset tip, but this is to not skip 2 days. This is how you turn something into a habit. You can have a bad day, you can fall off the wagon, but don't ever miss twice. This has been something that has really helped me to build consistency into my lifestyle, because if I know that I need to go to a gym on a Monday and for some reason I don't go, you can sure as heck bet that I will do everything within my power to make that the #1 priority on Tuesday. And this is what stops all in or all out behavior, or binges that lead to week-long or month-long episodes. This idea of never skipping twice means you can get on track really fast, and you can still see that as success, because you've now changed the definition of success from being perfect, which is impossible to achieve, to being I just won't miss twice. So now you're really gamifying the process of failure and then picking yourself up quickly from that, which is ultimately the skill set you will need to get to your goal. No one who is where you want to be a year from now has done that perfectly, but they've most likely gotten so much better at dealing with failure than you do right now. So if you don't have a skill set where you pick yourself up fast, then especially implement this. And if you have a perfectionism, overachieving kind of mindset, you struggle with that, you struggle with black and white, all in, all out behavior, I have a great podcast episode for you, so go give that a listen in the description. Well, that's it. These are my 10 habits. They're probably very repetitive. That's the thing about habits. They are very repetitive. Now go and implement them. Love to hear which ones you're going to work on first and if you found this helpful. And remember, when we're trying to build habits, we want to remove obstacles. We want to make it easy. We want to make it enjoyable. We want to make it satisfying. And if you're struggling to know where to get started on your weight loss, how many calories to eat, what kind of meals to make, how to build amazing, delicious bowls that actually fill you up, then I got you. I made you a free Kickstarter 6-day program that is going to show you exactly how to do that. Link is going to be in my bio for that as well. And yeah, hope you found this helpful. And I'll see you next week for another video. All right, bye, go crush it.